Ma'am, you clearly don't belong here. Security will escort you out. The words sliced through the Meridian Grand's marble lobby like a surgeon's scalpel. Diana Carter paused beneath the crystal chandelier's briefcase in hand as guest services manager Brittany Walsh's tone dripped contempt. In an instant, polished business travelers' stilled smartphones flicked to life and every eye locked onto the scene, a poised black executive challenged by the very club she owned. Heartbeats thundered in hushed awe as cameras rolled, capturing a moment of raw bias set against opulent grandeur. It wasn't just a denied elevator request. It was a live testament to how power, prejudice, and privilege collide in spaces built to exclude. If you've ever witnessed or experienced such discrimination, share your thoughts below, and don't forget to subscribe for the full story. You won't want to miss what happens next. Diana Carter took a deliberate step forward, her Louboutin heels clicking on the polished marble floor as though marking time in a courtroom. The Meridian Grand's lobby stretched before her towering Corinthian columns, a sky-high atrium gilded with sunlight and clusters of impeccably dressed guests murmuring into their smartphones. Yet none of that beauty could mask the tension coiling in the air. Brittany Walsh remained rooted behind the concierge desk, arms crossed, chin tilted just enough to convey both authority and disdain. Her crisp white blouse, sleek updo, and calm demeanor betrayed no nerve. "Ma'am, this hotel caters to registered guests and authorized personnel only." She repeated, her voice low but sharp enough to carry across the gilded hall. "You're neither." Diana held her composure. She'd encountered worse boardroom betrayals and far crueler tactics, but never a refusal to honor her own privileges. With unfaltering calm, she reached into her designer briefcase and withdrew an American Express Centurion card, its platinum sheen capturing every shaft of sunlight. She extended it toward Brittany. "That should suffice," she said, the words measured, each syllable weighted with quiet power. Brittany glanced at the card, then turned away. "Anyone can have one of those?" she said, oblivious to the gasps rippling through the assembled onlookers. "What I need is proof you belong here." Her eyes flicked to a hidden panic button beneath the desk, ready if she dared to summon security. The lobby fell deathly silent. A woman near the grand staircase pressed "Go Live" on her phone. A red dot blinked into view. Others casually raised their devices, capturing the unfolding spectacle. Diana's heart rate didn't spike. Instead, she saw an opportunity this moment would define not just her evening, but the hotel's future. She lifted her phone, pressing record. "Excuse me," she said, remarking on Brittany's backlit face. "Could you repeat that?" Her tone was courteous, too. Courteous. Brittany's cheeks flushed as she stuttered, "This establishment has standards." Standards. Diana's voice remained cool. "I oversee those standards. I am the CEO of Carter Hospitality Group, which owns this very hotel." That revelation landed like a brick against a glass facade. Brittany's posture snapped rigid. Guests exchanged glances. Cell phones multiplied like moths to a chandelier. A security guard, Marcus Thompson, materialized at Brittany's shoulder. He was imposing, broad-shouldered in a tailored uniform, but his eyes darted between Diana and Brittany, registering the discord. "Miss Walsh." "What seems to be the problem?" he asked, voice polite yet firm. Brittany managed a weak smile. "This woman insists on elevator access she can't prove she's authorized for." Marcus nodded once, then turned to Diana. "Ma'am, if you'd step aside, we'll handle this." Diana's lips curved in a serene smile. "Handle what exactly?" "I booked private access to the executive suite at 3:15 p.m. for my quarterly board meeting. I have every right to be here." She tapped the phone, still recording in her hand. "And now so does the world know." She watched Brittany's color drain away pink chalk white, then a faint sickly green. Brittany's trembling finger twitched near the panic button. Diana's cell vibrated with a calendar alert, 3:07 p.m. Board meeting, conference room A. 3 minutes until her board waited. 3 minutes to decide continue the showdown or retreat. No, she could not retreat. Not when skin-deep bias had dared challenge her authority in her own lobby. Brittany swallowed. I'm afraid I can't let you access those elevators without verification. Verification you already have." Diana stepped around the concierge desk, her shoes still clicking like a judge's gavel. Brittany opened her mouth, then closed it, the lines of hotel policy twisting into knots. Guests gawked, phones recorded. The live count climbed 20,000, 25,000. Diana's gaze remained fixed on Brittany. Hot flushes spread up Brittany's neck. For once, the polished veneer of customer service could not hide the rot beneath. Then Marcus Thompson cleared his throat. "Ms. Carter," he said carefully, "with respect, your credentials check out. I see the booking and your ID is in order." Silence rippled through the lobby's vaulted expanse. Diana nodded once. "Thank you, Marcus." She turned to Brittany, voice soft but unyielding. "You'll escort me to the elevator, please." Brittany, lips parted, managed a single nod. She stepped aside. Diana moved forward, her every stride reclaiming ground stolen by prejudice. Phones tilted toward her back, an avalanche of video testimony. As the elevator doors slid open, Diana offered a final glance at Brittany. No scorn, no triumph, just a silent question of regret. And with that, she stepped inside, leaving Brittany to face the fallout under those same crystal chandeliers. The moment Diana Carter stepped past Brittany Walsh and into the marble expanse of the Meridian Grand's lobby, the atmosphere shifted. Brittany's jaw clenched as Diana advanced with measured calm, but it was the hotel bystander, Amanda Hutchinson, lifestyle influencer turned impromptu journalist, who truly set the wheels of escalation in motion. Amanda's finger tapped go live on Instagram, and the red recording dot blinked to life as though igniting a fuse in the room. Within seconds, Amanda's live stream had drawn 15,000 viewers. Her voice, a hushed whisper laced with shock, narrated the scene. "I'm here at the Meridian Grand, 3:07 p.m., watching guest services manager. Brittany Walsh refuse a confirmed reservation holder entry to the executive floors. Her camera panned, capturing Brittany's pursed lips, Marcus Thompson's uneasy glance, and Diana's unflinching gaze. Comments poured in. "This can't be real." "Where's hotel security?" Anti-hotel discrimination trended instantly. Brittany's refusal to accept Diana's Centurion card and business class boarding pass from her earlier flight echoed in the vaulted lobby like an accusation. "Policy is policy," Brittany repeated, voice brittle. But policy couldn't staunch the torrent of live reactions. Laptops emerged, tablets flipped open. Guests murmured into phones. "They're filming inside the lobby. Has anyone pre-booked a suite here?" Marcus Thompson shifted, glancing at the flurry of screens. He cleared his throat. "Mastretis. Walsh. Perhaps we should bring this to the front desk." His words were tactful, but his eyes pleaded for de-escalation. Brittany patted her pocket, her panic button trembling beneath her palm. "No. I'm enforcing standards," she spat, unaware that each word only fueled the fire. Amanda's camera zoomed in on Diana's poised silhouette, charcoal suit, platinum watch, glinting phone held at the perfect angle. Diana's lips curved in a polite but resolute smile. "I'm happy to wait for my supervisor," she said calmly, her voice carrying across the hush that now blanketed the lobby. "But the board meeting I lead starts in 8 minutes. The live comments exploded. "She's the CEO. They messed with the wrong person." Behind Brittany, a banker with a gold tie watched incredulously. He tapped a colleague. "Could you believe this?" The colleague shook his head, both of them recording with discreet cameras. A hush fell over the room as word spread the woman being blocked wasn't just any guest. She was Diana Carter, CEO of Carter Hospitality Group, owners of the Meridian Grand itself. Brittany lost a fraction of her composure. She glanced at the security guard, then at the growing crowd of witnesses. "I need identification," she insisted. "That's all." Diana raised an eyebrow. "My business card," and produced a sleek white card embossed with gold lettering. Diana Carter, Chief Executive Officer, Carter Hospitality Group. Cameras whipped around to catch the exchange. Amanda's viewer count shot up to 39,000. Plot twist, owns the place. Brittany's face went pale. She fumbled for a retort, but the live stream kept rolling, chronicling every flinch, every swallowed word. The lobby's grand clock ticked ominously, 3:09 p.m. Just 6 minutes until the board meeting began and corporate destiny hung in the balance. Marcus Thompson stepped forward, clearing his throat again. "Ms. Carter," he said, stern but respectful. "Your credentials check out. I apologize. Please follow me to the elevator." The word apology reverberated like a gavel strike. At that moment, every device in the lobby seemed to pivot toward Brittany. Hotel staff who'd once watched stoically now whispered among themselves, "She's the CEO. She owns this hotel chain." Even the maitre d' peered from behind his station, fear and fascination intertwined in the air. Amanda's stream exploded with 55,000 viewers. The hashtag #MeridianGate was born a digital spectacle that no corporate public relations team could ignore. Comments flew faster than they could be read. She didn't just prove it. She humiliated them. This is going in university textbooks. Brittany's career is over. As Diana followed Marcus toward the executive elevator, she offered a final gracious glance to Brittany, who stood frozen behind the desk. The CEO's phone still recorded her decision to keep the camera rolling wasn't vengeance, it was evidence. In an era where bias could be hidden, Diana chose transparency. The silver elevator doors closed on that tableau, but the live stream carried on. People who'd never set foot in the Meridian Grand were now invested in its fate. Twitter lit up trending globally. News vans began circling their satellite dishes, unfurling like mechanical wings outside the glass facade. The hotel's phones rang, off-the-hook guests seeking clarification, shareholders demanding briefings, activists proclaiming solidarity. Inside the elevator, Diana turned to Marcus. "Thank you," she said softly. Marcus inclined his head, relief washing over his features. The tension in his shoulders eased. He'd chosen the right side of history. As the elevator ascended, Diana reviewed the stream on her phone. 75,000 viewers, tens of thousands of comments, hundreds of shares per second. She tapped a note in her corporate app. Initiate immediate internal review. In the next cell of her screen, prepare public statement. By the time the elevator chimed open on the 15th floor, Diana had a plan: shut down the lobby confrontation, address it head-on in the boardroom, and transform this viral moment into lasting reform. She pushed the door open, stepping into the executive suite's hush, her composed face a counterpoint to the digital storm she'd just rode to gain control. In the lobby below, Brittany Walsh stared at the retreating elevator doors, her trembling hand still resisting the panic button. She was emblematic of 1,000 biased decisions made in the shadows. But now her actions were laid bare before a global audience. As Diana entered the conference room, the fallout from the lobby confrontation was already gathering momentum. Security cameras had recorded the entire exchange. Amanda's Instagram Live had immortalized it. Social media would preserve it. And corporate law would soon codify the lessons in new policies, mandatory training, and unblinking oversight. In just minutes, a routine encounter had become a crucible one that would forge not only the Meridian Grand's future, but set a new standard for how power, prejudice, and privilege collide in the modern world. And all it took was a live stream ignition to expose the truth that bias cannot survive the glare of an unblinking camera. Throughout the next hour, every corner of that hotel would feel the shockwaves. Guests would swap stories, staff would huddle, executives would convene, and the hashtag #MeridianGate would continue to trend, a digital scarlet letter, marking the moment when discrimination was forced into the open. But in that electric moment, the story belonged to the live stream and to the woman brave enough to let the world watch. The lobby's grand chandeliers glinted off the polished marble as two security officers, Marcus Thompson Steely and mid-40s, and his younger colleague Trevor Mills, emerged from the side corridor. Both wore crisply pressed uniforms and holstered radios, but their eyes betrayed uncertainty. Behind them, Brittany Walsh stood rigidly at the reception desk, panic betraying her usually composed facade. Diana Carter, calm as ever, met the guard's approach with quiet resolve, her phone raised but held at her side. "Ma'am," Marcus began, voice low but firm enough to carry over the hush that had fallen across the lobby. "I'm going to need to see your identification. Or you can come with us to the manager's office while we sort this out." Diana's gaze flicked to Trevor, who shifted uneasily, glancing at the silent witness of dozens of phones capturing every second. Then she faced Marcus again. her tone even. I've already shown plenty of credentials, my Centurion card, my boarding pass, and my business card. I'm waiting for an elevator to attend my board meeting. Marcus exchanged a glance with Trevor. Both men knew the drill. A guest refusing to comply meant escalation paperwork, possible trespassing charges. But something in Diana's posture, shoulders squared chin level, made them hesitate. Trevor swallowed. Ma'am, policy is policy. If you can't produce the proper ID, we have to ask you to step aside. Diana's lips curved in a patient smile. Of course. But before I do, I need to document everything. She tapped her screen, a red recording icon appearing at the corner. I'm recording now, and legal has already been notified. This is being live-streamed to over 100,000 viewers. Marcus's jaw tightened. Live-streamed? Yes, Diana said, glancing at her phone. 123,000 and counting. She held up the screen. The live feed displayed her face framed by the ornate lobby. Brittany's stiff posture in the background and the two guards advancing. Comments ticked by. No way this is happening. She's not going anywhere. Hotel discrimination. Trevor's eyes flicked to the scrolling stream. Sir, ma'am, he corrected himself. Voice uncertain. This is private property. Recording is allowed in public areas, but interfering with security. I'm not interfering, Diana interrupted, voice soft but carrying. I'm exercising my right to document a public encounter. I'm the CEO of Carter Hospitality Group, owner of this property, and I'm demanding to know why I'm being told to leave my own hotel. Marcus put a hand on Trevor's shoulder, a subtle gesture to calm his partner. Then he looked at Diana with renewed respect. Miss Carter, Sir CEO. Carter. I'm sorry, I didn't know. If you'll just show me your company ID, I can clear this up. Diana reached for her briefcase, unzipping it with deliberate slowness as hundreds of eyes watched. She withdrew a silver-embossed badge on a leather lanyard, Diana Carter, Chief Executive Officer, Carter Hospitality Group. She pressed it into Marcus's hand. The guard's skin went clammy as he read the embossed name. He glanced up at her suit, her composed face, the poised strength she radiated. Beside him, Trevor stammered, I'm sorry, Miss Carter. He extended the badge to Marcus, too flustered to look at Diana again. Diana nodded graciously. Thank you. I'll continue to wait for the elevator now. She pocketed the badge and stepped a half-pace back, phone still recording. Trevor took a step forward, blocking Brittany's exit. Diana paused, palm pressed lightly to her briefcase. Please, she said, let's not make a scene any more than it already is. At that moment, Brittany's own phone buzzed, a text from security management. She glanced down, face paling, as she read the message, Guest is CEO. Executive team inbound. She looked up at the tableau, her rigid posture crumpling under the weight of her mistake. The crowd in the lobby, once hushed in anticipation, erupted in whispered excitement. A banker snapped a photo. A tourist nudged her companion. Brittany swallowed, voice trembling. Miss Carter. I apologize. I didn't realize. Please use the elevator. Diana's smile softened, but her eyes hovered on the bank of polished doors as they slid open. The digital clock above the doors glowed 3:14 p.m., 1 minute until her board meeting. Millions around the world watched the live feed, absorbing every nuance, the tremor in Brittany's hand, the relief on Marcus's face, the steel in Diana's calm. She lowered her phone. Thank you, she said quietly, stepping toward the elevator. As she moved, the crowd parted. Part shock, part respect, part relief, that the storm would soon pass through polished metal in quiet halls. Trevor and Marcus exchanged one last awkward glance before stepping aside. Brittany, crestfallen, offered a curt nod, but no words. Diana slid into the elevator, her reflection multiplied in the gleaming metal walls, poised unbowed in full command of her narrative. The doors closed with a soft chime, cutting off the mechanical hum of the lobby. A ripple of murmured disbelief and approval washed over the gathering guests, lowering their phones, staff exchanging furtive glances. Security resetting their stance. In the corridor beyond the elevator, Diana let out a measured breath, straightened her shoulders, and pocketed her phone. The recorded footage was already backing up to her legal team's secure server evidence, of what had transpired, proof that bias would no longer hide behind protocol or prejudice. Behind her, the lobby settled into an uneasy calm. Screens flickered as the live stream continued to broadcast an empty space where seconds before history had been made. The digital clock ticked onward, but time itself felt suspended. A CEO had been mocked and challenged at her own hotel, and yet through composed defiance and unwavering dignity, she had forced the world to witness the truth. The guards remained near the doors, reluctant sentinels in the aftermath of their own missteps. Brittany leaned against the reception desk, her fingers trembling over the panic button she would never press again. Security protocols had been exposed as mere theater in the face of real power and real accountability. As Diana's elevator ascended, the live stream blipped with notifications. This is more than viral. It's a catalyst. Policy change coming. Bias blown wide open. The hashtag hotel discrimination trended worldwide, but now it carried a new twist. An entire industry would have to answer for what had transpired in these moments. And in that suspended beat between lobby and boardroom, between prejudice and justice, the world watched, remembered, and began to change. The lobby's grand clock chimed 3:12 p.m. as Diana Carter leveled her gaze on Brittany Walsh. The hushed crowd pressed close, phones poised like baying hounds. Brittany's polished composure cracked her perfectly sculpted smile, jittering as her finger hovered over the panic button. Diana's heartbeat was steady, each pulse matching the soft hum of voices and the clatter of heels on marble. On what grounds? Ms. Walsh. Diana's voice was low, crystalline, every word deliberate. Around them, the cluster of guests and staff seemed to freeze in place, captured by her calm authority. Brittany opened her mouth, closed it, then swallowed. "We have standards," she stuttered. "We require verification." Verification for what? Diana stepped forward, unafraid. That I belong in my own hotel. Her question cut through the tension like a razor. Brittany's cheeks bloomed a harsh red. The security guard shifted uneasily, exchanging glances. Then Diana's phone buzzed. She slipped it from her briefcase, swiped to answer, and held it discreetly to her ear. "Thank you," she said. "Yes, I'm on my way now." She ended the call and tucked the phone away. Brittany's eyes widened until they looked too large for her face. "Ms. Carter," she whispered, voice catching. Diana's lips curved into a small, almost sympathetic smile. "Perhaps I wasn't clear," she said softly. "I'm Diana Carter, Chief Executive Officer of Carter Hospitality Group. This hotel chain belongs to my family." Silence rippled outward. A toddler's curious cry echoed somewhere in the back, but even that seemed swallowed by the stunned hush. Phones clicked to life as Brittany's facade crumbled. The security guard straightened, but their confident posture was gone. Marcus Thompson's jaw hung open. Trevor Mills looked like he might lean on the polished desk for support. Diana CEO Carter Brittany stammered, her voice a tremor. I didn't know." She dropped her head, shoulders slumping. Around them, murmurs erupted. A bank executive raised his phone to record. A tourist's mouth formed a perfect O. Live stream viewers jumped by the thousands, their comments flooding in. Plot twist. "She owns the place. #hotel discrimination." Diana held up her hand and the crowd stilled again. "I understand mistakes happen," she said, her tone measured but unyielding. "However, it's my responsibility to ensure this never happens again." She turned to the security guards. "Mr. Thompson, Mr. Mills, thank you for your service. You may resume your posts." Marcus and Trevor cast embarrassed looks at one another, then straightened, nodding stiffly as they melted back into the background. Brittany remained frozen, eyes brimming. Diana approached, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Brittany," she said, "you're a valued employee, but today you allowed bias to override policy. We'll address this together." For the first time, Brittany nodded, tears spilling over. Diana raised her voice, projecting to the dozen onlookers. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your patience. My board meeting awaits, but our conversation doesn't end here." She took one step to the elevator bank. "Elevator number 3 is now available," she called. "Please allow me through." The polished silver doors slid open. Diana stepped in her heels, clicking in rhythm with her heartbeat. For a moment, she paused inside, turning to the lobby. Brittany stood at the front desk, head lowered, the reception area transformed into a theater of regret an awakening. Diana lifted her chin. "See you upstairs," she said softly, both a reassurance and a warning that change was coming. As the elevator doors closed, the lobby exhaled. Phones lowered. Conversation sparked. Brittany sank onto a nearby stool, hands covering her face. The security guards exchanged sheepish grins and elbow nudges as if relieved the crisis was resolved. But the files and recordings circulating on phones and security monitors were just beginning to work their way through human resources, legal, and the CEO's own office. On the 15th floor, the marble corridors gleamed under recessed lighting. Diana emerged from the elevator, her composure immaculate. James Morrison, the assistant general manager, awaited her with a tablet in hand. He looked ashen. "Ma'am," he said, voice low. "Corporate security wants copies of the live footage. Legal is drafting a public statement. The board chair is on her way." Diana nodded curtly. "Excellent. Let's ensure our response matches the gravity of what happened downstairs." She swept past him, stride purposeful. "I'll need a full report on Brittany's actions, the security interaction, and any policies she cited. We must understand precisely where our training failed." James hurried to keep pace, thumbs flying across the tablet screen. "Yes, ma'am. I'll have it on your desk within the hour." Diana paused outside the executive conference room. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, she could see the skyline, Manhattan's familiar sprawl, now tinged with the golden hour light. In less than 3 minutes, 12 board members would be waiting, eager to begin the quarterly review. Instead, she would start with this the moment her own manager tried to eject her. She steeled herself, squared her shoulders, and stepped into conference room A, where polished mahogany and leather chairs awaited under a watchful chandelier. The room fell silent as she entered. Harold Westbrook, chair of the board, rose, phone in hand. "Diana," he said with relief, "I'm so sorry about the wait. I was watching on every feed." She offered a small, empathetic smile. "No apologies necessary, Harold. We have work to do." She held up her hand, signaling the screens to light up. The boardroom's monitors flickered to life, looping a 30-second clip, Brittany's initial refusal. The guards approach, Diana's calm insistence, and finally the CEO reveal. Gasps and murmurs rippled around the table. A staid board member, usually a bastion of polish, leaned forward, eyes wide. "This is extraordinary," he whispered. "Yes," Diana replied, her tone both gentle and stern. "It's our reality and our wake-up call." She advanced to the head of the table, placing her briefcase on the polished surface. "Before we review the P&L and expansion strategy, we must address the culture and policies that allowed this to happen." For the next 2 hours, the boardroom transformed into a war room of justice and reform. Diana guided them through a detailed account of the incident, the viral data analytics, legal exposures, and most importantly, a blueprint for systemic change, zero-tolerance bias policies, revamped training modules, real-time reporting systems, and executive accountability measures. By the time the last chart flickered off the screens, the board had unanimously approved a sweeping overhaul. Former protocols were shredded metaphorically. New ones inked into the very charter of Carter Hospitality Group. As the board members filed out some offering apologies for their part in enabling systemic bias, Diana remained seated, a quiet sentinel of progress. In that moment, the CEO reveal had rippled far beyond the marble lobby. It had exploded across corporate hierarchies, legal frameworks, and social media feeds, forcing accountability at every level. Diana Carter's composed defiance had shown that true power isn't about privilege. It's about principle persistence and the courage to command change from the very top. And so as the sky outside deepened into twilight, the Meridian Grand's flagship executive suite hummed with a new energy, one where dignity was not just preserved, but guaranteed. The elevator doors slid open with the hush of whispered secrets, depositing Diana Carter into the heart of the storm. The executive conference room, its glass walls framing a panoramic view of Manhattan's glittering skyline, had been transformed into a crisis command center. 12 polished mahogany chairs surrounded a long table. At its head sat Harold Westbrook, his face pale beneath the soft glow of recessed lighting. On the far wall, 3 giant monitors looped the raw footage from the Meridian Grand lobby, Brittany Walsh's initial refusal, the security standoff, and Diana's CEO reveal in crystal clarity. A ripple of tension coursed through the room as Diana stepped forward. "Thank you all for gathering on such short notice," she began, her voice calm but charged. "We have a discrimination crisis now." She tapped a tablet on the podium. The screen shifted to a slide titled Incident Overview. The board members leaned in. The screen showed real-time social media metrics. 2.3 million mentions, 89% negative sentiment hashtags trending from New York to Los Angeles. She clicked again. The slide displayed legal exposures, 14 causes of action. Each statistic scrolled into view: Civil Rights Act of 1964. Civil Rights Act of 1968. New York state and city human rights laws, plus an array of federal and state statutes protecting against race and gender discrimination. We face potential damages ranging from $500,000 to $2.3 million, not including punitive damages, legal fees, or settlement costs, Diana said, letting the weight of each number settle in the silence. And that's just for this single incident. The room felt smaller now, the polished table a barrier between intention and consequence. A hand creaked as board member Patricia Chen shifted in her seat. "Diana," she said softly, "these figures are staggering. What are our immediate remediations?" Diana's gaze swept the room. "We begin with personnel actions." She tapped the tablet. The slide changed to personnel recommendations. Brittany Walsh's name appeared in stark red. "Termination for cause effective immediately," Diana stated. Faces in the room flickered, some with relief, others with somber understanding. Assistant General Manager Jennifer Brooks will receive a formal reprimand and mandatory sensitivity retraining. Security officers Marcus Thompson and Trevor Mills will receive bias awareness coaching, and their performance will be under review for the next 6 months. Harold exhaled, running a hand through silver-streaked hair. And beyond personnel, Diana advanced to the next slide: systemic reforms. Bullet points, though unspoken, materialized as she spoke. First, a zero-tolerance discrimination policy codified in our corporate charter with automatic termination for violations. Second, mandatory quarterly bias training for all management and customer-facing staff with annual recertification. Third, installation of AI-powered behavior analysis software on security cameras to flag potential discrimination in real time. Fourth, an anonymous 24-hour hotline directly to my office with guaranteed response within 12 hours. Fifth, a diversity oversight board consisting of civil rights attorneys, community leaders, and employee representatives empowered to conduct quarterly audits and publish their findings publicly. The atmosphere crackled. Board member James Sullivan, usually the stoic risk director, tapped his pen against a notepad. "The AI monitoring, are we legally clear on that?" His question hung precise and cautious. Diana nodded. "Yes. Our legal team has vetted the software for compliance with privacy laws. We're analyzing only visual behavior patterns, not audio, and using encrypted data streams to protect identities. The goal is pattern detection, not surveillance." James scribbled notes, brow furrowed. The board exchanged glances, some approving the proactive stance, others recalculating the cost. Diana anticipated the unspoken question. "The annual investment for these systems is approximately $2.1 million across all 43 properties, a rounding error compared to the potential losses and reputational damage." She paused, eyes locking with each member. "Beyond numbers, it's a statement: discrimination will cost you everything." A ripple of agreement circled the table. Patricia Chen leaned forward. "This is decisive leadership, Diana. But how do we ensure accountability?" Diana tapped the tablet. The screen filled with organizational charts and accountability matrices. "All senior executives, including myself, will have our bonuses tied to diversity and inclusion metrics. HR will publish quarterly progress reports. We'll host an annual public town hall streamed live where stakeholders can question us on our progress." She let the gravity of that commitment land before continuing. "Finally, our franchise agreements will include binding clauses. Violations of our anti-discrimination policies will trigger immediate franchise review and potential termination." Silence reigned, broken only by the hum of the monitors. Harold stood slowly, clearing his throat. "Diana, your proposals are comprehensive. Do we have a motion to adopt these reforms immediately?" Before any hand rose, Michael Torres, the CFO, spoke. I move to implement the personnel actions and systemic reforms as outlined. His voice carried both urgency and conviction. Several hands shot up in unison: Patricia Chen, James Sullivan, David Kim, and every other board member. Harold beat the tablet's virtual gavel. Motion carries unanimously. We stand united in this. A near-electric energy filled the room. Harold exhaled relief and resolve mingling in his expression. Diana, you have the board's unequivocal support. Let's execute these changes without delay. Diana allowed herself a small, satisfied smile. Thank you. I'll coordinate with HR, legal, IT, and communications to initiate rollout immediately. We'll issue a public statement within the hour one that acknowledges our failures and commits to this bold path forward. As the board members gathered their notes, Diana stepped back from the podium. The monitors switched to a simple message: systemic change in progress. Through the glass walls, she could glimpse the corridor beyond staff scurrying with purpose. A dozen phones left on kiosks, streaming the very footage that had upended their afternoon. But now that footage was a catalyst for transformation. Harold approached, his voice quieter but no less earnest. Diana, that was extraordinary. You turned a moment of crisis into a mandate for progress. She nodded, true gratitude shining in her eyes. We all must do our part, Harold. This is bigger than any one of us. Outside reporters swarmed. Within minutes, the key points of the reforms hammered across news feeds: zero tolerance, AI monitoring quarterly audits, real-time hotlines, diversity metrics tied to compensation. Social media exploded anew this time with applause and cautious optimism. Finally, real accountability. This is how you lead. Carter Hospitality sets the standard. In the glass-walled sanctuary of that emergency boardroom, Diana Carter had done more than secure a unanimous vote. She had ignited a corporate revolution. Minutes earlier, she'd been a target. Now she was a trailblazer, wielding policy as a shield against prejudice and forging a legacy of dignity that would echo far beyond the marble lobbies and gilded hallways of her hotels. As she left the room, the monitors switched one last time, a simple emblem of Carter Hospitality's commitment, a stylized phoenix rising from a marble column with the motto, "Dignity First." And in that moment, every executive, every employee, and every guest knew that justice delivered in real time could indeed be enforced. When Diana Carter stepped onto the polished stage of the Meridian Grand's Crystal Ballroom, the hush was palpable. Dozens of cameras, their lenses trained like sentinels, blinked in unison under the grand chandelier's glow. Reporters jockeyed for position, microphones at the ready. Behind Diana, a massive digital screen displayed a stark declaration in bold white letters against a black background: no excuse, no deflection, concrete change. She paused, letting the weight of those words settle over the assembled crowd. Then with calm precision, she began. Good afternoon. I am Diana Carter, CEO of Carter Hospitality Group. Her voice carried with the same quiet authority she'd wielded in the lobby showdown days earlier. What you witnessed, our guest services manager refusing a customer access to her own hotel security guards, enforcing that refusal, and hundreds of thousands of people watching live, was unacceptable. It violated our core values. It broke the trust of our guests. And it exposed a deeper failure within our organization. A hush fell. Reporters scribbled furiously, cameras clicked, and the glimmering marble walls seemed to lean in. I'm here not to apologize with empty words, but to present concrete actions that will ensure this never happens again. Diana continued. She tapped a remote, and the screen flickered to life with the room's plan of action. First, effective immediately, Carter Hospitality Group is adopting a zero-tolerance policy for discrimination, she announced. Any employee found to have discriminated against a guest based on race, gender, age, disability, or any protected characteristic will face immediate termination. No warnings, no appeals. A murmur rippled through the room. Diana let it pass before moving on. Second, we're implementing quarterly bias certification for all management and frontline staff. This is not a one-time training or a box to check. It's a rigorous program designed in partnership with leading civil rights organizations that includes immersive scenario-based workshops, impartial assessments, and refresher modules every 3 months. Completion of these certifications will be a mandatory condition for continued employment. She advanced the slide. Third, we're leveraging technology to protect our guests. Our security cameras will be equipped with AI-driven behavior analytics to detect potential discrimination in real time. When the system flags concerning interactions, a trained bias response team, available 24/7, will intervene immediately. No more silent hallway missteps. Every guest will know they're protected. Eyes widened in the audience. Diana's tone remained steady. Fourth, we believe in holding ourselves accountable. We're establishing a Diversity and Dignity Oversight Board, an independent body chaired by civil rights attorneys, community advocates, and employee representatives. They will conduct quarterly audits of our properties, review all discrimination complaints, and publicly release their findings. Transparency will be our guiding principle. She paused to let her next point land. Fifth, and perhaps most importantly, we'll tie executive compensation directly to our diversity and inclusion metrics. Leaders at every level will see a portion of their bonuses linked to reduction in discrimination incidents, improvement in guest satisfaction across demographics, and successful completion of bias certifications. When our people see that their pay depends on upholding these standards, real cultural change follows. A camera panned to capture the board members seated at the back of the ballroom, some nodding thoughtfully, others exchanging determined glances. Diana pressed on. I'm also proud to announce the creation of the Dignity Scholarship Fund, seeded with $2 million from Carter Hospitality Group. It will provide hospitality education and mentorship to young people from underrepresented communities, ensuring that the next generation of leaders reflects and respects the diversity of the world we serve. By now, the reporters were leaning forward, sensing that this was no mere damage control press conference. This was a blueprint for a new era. One final commitment, Diana said, her voice softening. We will open a dedicated whistleblower hotline and mobile app, Your Dignity Matters, through which guests and employees can report discriminatory incidents anonymously. Every report will trigger an immediate investigation, and we will publish our response times and resolutions on our corporate website. She stepped away from the podium, letting the silence speak for itself. Then, with a firm nod, she concluded, No excuse, no deflection, concrete change. That is our promise to every guest, every employee, and every community we serve. For a heartbeat, the room was still. Then cameras exploded into life. Questions flew, and the ballroom, once a stage for glamour and prestige, had become the birthplace of a hospitality revolution. As Diana fielded questions from reporters about implementation timelines, third-party partnerships, and legal oversight, one thing was clear: the Meridian Grand's public apology had transcended cliché. It was a strategic manifesto, a public declaration that injustice, once exposed, would be met not with platitudes but with systemic transformation. And in those moments, watching Diana Carter stand unflinching beneath the chandeliers, the world saw what decisive leadership looked like, not just cleaning up a scandal, but forging a new path forward, one where every guest, regardless of appearance or background, could step into a lobby and know they belonged. Months have passed since Diana Carter's press conference, but the air in the Meridian Grand's lobby still crackles with purposeful energy. The same gleaming marble floors now support bold installations, sleek kiosks labeled Your Dignity Matters, outfitted with touchscreens for guests to report any hint of bias in real time. Nearby, elegantly framed posters bear guiding tenets: zero tolerance, every guest, equal respect, and speak up. We listen. Each headline greeted by courteous nods from staff and curious glances from guests. What once was a stage for a viral confrontation has become an open classroom for systemic change. Stepping through the revolving doors feels different now. The refreshed bias prevention seminar sign directs arriving new hires to the adjacent training suite, where small groups practice de-escalation techniques with professional actors. I pass a cluster of front desk agents gathered around a large screen sharing recorded scenarios from actual lobby interactions. One playback shows a clerk calmly guiding a confused senior citizen away from an entitlement dispute. Another captures a manager gently diffusing a tense guest complaint. Attendees lean forward asking questions, and the facilitator, always in a sharp Carter Hospitality Group polo, pauses the video to highlight moments of empathy and professionalism. Over at the concierge stand, Chief Concierge Matthew Alvarez swipes through the new Dignity dashboard on his tablet. He grins when an alert pops up: zero discrimination reports logged in the last 48 hours. We've hit clean lobby milestones 3 days straight, he tells me, tapping a celebratory badge added to the staff recognition wall. Beside his desk, a digital map of all Carter properties pulses green in each region, an immediate visual of the brand's equitable service spread nationwide. I wander to the lobby's central seating cluster where I find guests pausing to read "Did you know?" placards. One explains how every employee's quarterly bonus is tied to diversity metrics. Another details the Dignity Scholarship Fund that's already awarded grants to students pursuing hospitality careers. A family from overseas marvels at the inclusivity pledge printed on their room key card. They snap photos sharing them with friends and tagging #MeridianDignity. The morning sunlight slants through towering windows as I move toward the executive elevator vestibule, the site of Diana's own confrontation. Now small bronze placards on the sleek steel doors commemorate Respect Station, a quiet reminder of the lobby's rebirth. A group of employees exits the elevator after a bias certification workshop. Their faces bright, they chat about role-play takeaways as they head to their stations. In the past, similar gatherings might have felt perfunctory, mandatory boxes to check. Today, they brim with genuine engagement. Colleagues recommend best practice approaches, and one new staffer wide-eyed admits, "I never realized how little I noticed my own assumptions." Down a side corridor, I spot the brand new Dignity Hub, a welcoming lounge for employees to debrief, seek counseling, or propose policy tweaks. Inside, HR Director Maya Chen briefs a small team of diversity advocates on incoming suggestions. One advocate, a former guest services agent, recounts a recent interaction. A family with heavy accents requested room adjustments, but she hesitated before offering help. Now fortified by her bias training, she quickly anticipated and accommodated their needs. "No judgments, just service," she says, a mantra echoed on the whiteboard behind her. Returning to the lobby proper, I notice a new mural unfolding along the gallery wall. Commissioned by local artists, it depicts a mosaic of diverse guests, business travelers, multicultural families, solo adventurers, each seamlessly blended into the Meridian Grand storied architecture. Art for Inclusion reads a plaque at the corner reminding us every person has a place here. Beneath it, a timely testimonial. "When I first walked in, I saw my face reflected in the hospitality," reads a note from a guest who had once faced bias at another property. At midday, the lobby becomes a crossroads of global travelers and working locals. A group of conference attendees from a nearby tech summit navigates with the help of staff, guided by respectful service that anticipates language needs and accessibility requirements. Behind them, two bellhops rush past. Once they would have silently judged passengers by luggage brand. Now they greet every arrival with courteous, "Good morning, welcome," and inquire gently about assistance. Their radios buzz periodically with kudos. "Agent Perez just saved a service recovery. It's the third of the hour." As I head toward the cafe corner, I overhear a table of hospitality executives comparing notes. Since the Meridian Grand rolled out their AI incident detection, our own trials have reduced reports by 40%, one says. Another nods. "We just signed on to Carter's Dignity Network, sharing audit outcomes and training modules. Feels like a community, not a competition." Their animated discussion punctuates the lobby's transformation from fortress to forum, where corporate peers learn and grow together. I sip a latte in a corner booth, watching staff navigate a steady stream of guest inquiries. One concierge escorts a guest to the reporting kiosk after a minor misunderstanding was flagged, ensuring the guest's voice is heard. A janitorial supervisor checks in with a security guard, exchanging respectful high fives after jointly de-escalating an irate patron. There's no tension in the air now, instead a shared dedication to upholding each guest's dignity. Glancing at my watch, I realize this is no longer a lobby defined by a moment of shame. It's a testament to the momentum of reform. Discrimination complaints have dropped 70% across Carter properties in just 6 months. Employee surveys show record-high morale anchored by pride in the zero-tolerance stance. The company's stock has rallied, driven by the market's recognition that inclusive service is not just ethically right, but financially sound. Just then, Diana Carter emerges from the executive elevator bank, her presence still commanding. She pauses to greet a couple whose 80th floor suite booking had the system hiccup. Instead of dismissing them, she personally escorts them to their room. They beam sharing selfies with her and posting to social media. Diana's calm intervention mirrors the company's ethos, see the person first, policies second. As sunlight wanes and the lobby lights shift to evening glow, I reflect on the Meridian Grand's remarkable pivot. A viral scandal once threatened the brand's standing. Today it fuels a movement of positive disruption. Guests and guests-to-be alike experience not just luxurious accommodations, but a culture where respect is engineered into every interaction. In a year's time, this lobby will undoubtedly host more transformations, new programs, fresh initiatives, evolving technologies. But the core truth remains real change requires more than policy declarations. It demands lived experience, measured action, and unwavering commitment. Here at the Meridian Grand, what began as a painful confrontation has unleashed an institution-wide renaissance proof that hospitality can heal itself one dignified smile at a time. Within weeks of the Meridian Grand's decisive overhaul, the Carter Protocol rippled outward through the hospitality world. At a swank executive retreat in Miami, two rival hotel CEOs confessed over mojitos that they'd quietly dispatched teams to reverse engineer every detail of Carter's bias detection software. Their lobby kiosks now flashed identical dignity check banners, and their staff badges bore certified Carter Ally insignias. Across the Atlantic, a luxury European chain quietly enlisted Carter's consultants to integrate AI-powered monitoring into their gilded palaces from Paris to Prague. The protocol, once derided as radical, had become the blueprint for survival in an era where a single viral clip could shatter a brand overnight. In New York, Brittany Walsh, once the guest services manager who sparked the scandal, found herself an unlikely star speaker at the Global Hospitality Leaders Forum. Her TED-style presentation bore the title, From Gatekeeper to Game Changer. She stood before 500 peers voice steady, I lost my job at Meridian Grand for enforcing assumptions. I regained my purpose by fighting them. She described her journey through sensitivity training, her months at the nonprofit Institute for Service Equity, and the profound personal reckoning that led her to co-found the Hospitality Dignity Alliance. By the end of her talk, Brittany's former critics were applauding her bold roadmap for reshaping corporate culture. Meanwhile, Diana Carter's office became a hub of industry pact-making. She convened a coalition of hotel brands, restaurant groups, and cruise lines under the banner of the Hospitality Integrity Network. At the inaugural summit in Chicago, CEOs inked a pledge-adopt quarterly bias audits, implement real-time complaint channels, and align executive bonuses with measurable inclusion goals. The group's press release noted that within 6 months, participation had grown from 5 founding members to 80 global brands collectively serving tens of millions of guests. But the story's most resonant chapter unfolded beneath the lofty chandeliers of Meridian Grand's newly christened Dignity Hall. On a crisp autumn afternoon, Diana and Brittany unveiled the Dignity and Hospitality Scholarship Fund, a semicircle of young scholars, each the first in their family to consider a career in hotel management, tilted forward as Brittany addressed them. Your backgrounds were once viewed as liabilities. Today, they're celebrated assets. She handed shimmering scholarship checks to recipients studying hospitality at state universities, community colleges, and culinary institutes. The $500,000 fund seeded by Carter Hospitality's philanthropic arm promised to underwrite tuition internships and mentorships for 50 underrepresented students each year. One scholarship awardee, Luis Martinez, a first-generation college student from El Paso, spoke through tears. My dad taught me that hospitality means opening doors. Thanks to this scholarship, I'll train to open doors for others without fear or judgment. Another recipient, Aisha Jamal from Detroit, described how seeing her own bias on Brittany's viral apology video had driven her to study service equity. Now with financial barriers lifted, she planned to become a diversity consultant herself. That evening, as press photographers captured Diana Carter shaking hands with marquee donors, and Brittany embracing scholarship awardees, it was clear that their joint venture transcended mere public relations. They had fused two hard-earned truths, personal redemption and systemic reform. The scholarship was both a statement and a living laboratory, an investment in the next generation of leaders who would design entirely new service paradigms. Beyond the glimmering gala, the ripple spread to training academies from Seattle to Singapore. Aspiring hotel managers flipped through Carter's case study playbook, annotating every lesson with fresh data from their own properties. In corporate boardrooms, CFOs recalculated projections to include diversity-linked revenue gains. Marketing teams drafted campaigns that championed their newly minted respect pledge targeting social media-savvy travelers who valued equitable treatment as much as plush bedding. Regulators even took notice. The Department of Hospitality Oversight, an emerging federal agency, amended its guidelines to recommend third-party bias audits for any lodging business with annual revenues exceeding $100 million. Compliance offered a fast track to permit approvals and tax incentives. Those who ignored the new directives risked fines and reputational fallout. In effect, what began as Diana's personal fight for dignity had crystallized into a quasi-mandatory industry standard. Back at Meridian Grand, the lobby speakers cycled through video testimonials from guest service trainees who'd once stood on Brittany's side of the counter. One trainee, a quiet former front desk clerk named Priya, described how her initial skepticism had melted when she encountered a nervous non-native English speaker. Instead of directing him to a translator app, she learned to listen, first clarify needs, and offer patient reassurance. That small shift, she said in her video, was the moment I understood the true Carter Protocol service that sees the person, not the stereotype. As twilight settled over the city, the Meridian Grand's windows glowed like lanterns of progress. Brittany paused outside the lobby, brushing a loose strand of hair from her face. When this all started, she reflected, my only goal was to survive. Now I wake up every day determined to help others thrive. Diana emerged beside her, placing a supportive hand on her shoulder. We've done more than rebuild a brand, Diana said. We've rewritten the rules of hospitality. They looked out over the bustling entrance, valet attendants greeting a family of 4 bellhops, assisting a wheelchair-bound traveler, and concierge staff, eliminating any hint of inconvenience for guests from every walk of life. In that moment, the Meridian Grand stood not just as a hotel, but as a living testament to transformation. The viral spark that once threatened to consume it had ignited a blaze of innovation, accountability, and hope, fueling an entire industry's journey from prejudice to possibility and empowering countless individuals to claim their rightful place in a world where dignity is universal. 2 years ago, a single viral clip exposed a moment of raw bias beneath the Meridian Grand's glittering chandeliers. Today, that same moment, Diana Carter's marble lobby stand, has become the cornerstone of corporate curricula, the gold standard for crisis response, and the catalyst for a hospitality renaissance. Across campuses in North America, Europe, and Asia, business students dissect the Meridian Grand case as part of their core crisis management courses. In lecture halls at Harvard, Wharton, INSEAD, and beyond, professors project the original live stream footage, pausing on Brittany Walsh's stunned expression and Diana's unwavering composure. They ask, what would you do? How quickly would you pivot from victim to victor? And most crucially, how do you build systems that preempt bias rather than react to it? Meanwhile, the U.S. Hospitality Regulatory Council has formally incorporated the Carter Protocol into its federal guidelines. Hotels seeking federal grants or low-interest loans must now demonstrate Diana Carter-level safeguards. Quarterly bias audits, AI-driven incident flagging, and board-approved diversity charters. Non-compliance carries escalating fines up to $500,000 per breach. In the last fiscal year alone, discrimination complaints across major hotel chains plunged by a staggering 68% as frontline staff embraced new training modules and tech-enabled reporting kiosks. Guest satisfaction scores among travelers of color have soared by 35%. Data from the Council shows proving that equity isn't just a moral imperative, it's a business differentiator. At Meridian Grand itself, the lobby plaque. Here we serve with dignity has become a pilgrim's marker. Visitors and industry delegations snap photos beside it, a ritual homage to the moment when prejudice faltered under the light of accountability. The once dreaded floor. 15 Meltdown now draws crowds eager to learn how a single CEO's calm strategy ignited systemic change. On any given day, the lobby's bias prevention kiosks stream live tutorials for visitors, and trainees practice de-escalation drills on holographic avatars. The names Diana Carter and Brittany Walsh are etched alongside hospitality legends in the hotel's Hall of Innovation. In graduate seminars, case teams debate the exact moment when Carter's approach shifted from reactive to proactive. Was it her choice to record rather than immediately comply? Her refusal to name drop or explode in anger? Her insistence on documenting every biased protocol? Or was it her boardroom coup, the unscheduled session where she laid out 14 legal vantage points and $2.3 million in lost revenue demanding real-time reforms? The consensus. It was all of the above orchestrated with cinematic precision that turned a PR nightmare into a strategic masterclass. The Carter Protocol itself has evolved into a living framework. Last month, Whitney and Bateson Consulting released an updated edition of their Global Hospitality Ethics Playbook, now fully centered on Meridian's model. It includes new chapters on biometric sentiment analysis, gauging guest comfort levels through anonymous facial expression data, and on empathy mapping, a technique for humanizing data from passenger feedback apps. More strikingly, the protocol has been adapted for other sectors. Airlines require Carter-style gate checks. Luxury retail rollouts feature dignity kiosks outside fitting rooms. Even major banks are piloting unbiased customer onboarding to guard against socioeconomic profiling. Back in Meridian Grand's boardroom, Diana Carter chairs the annual Diversity and Dignity Summit, where hospitality executives, tech innovators, and civil rights advocates converge. This year's keynote featured a panel of former skeptics, security chiefs, managers, and trainers who once underestimated the power of systemic reform. They spoke of their own awakenings, how simulated bias testing modules revealed hidden attitudes, how AI alerts prevented hundreds of microaggressions before they could occur, how tying executive bonuses to inclusion metrics shifted boardroom priorities overnight. And every summit ends with the scholarship awards for the Dignity and Hospitality Fund. One recipient this year, Priya Patel, recounted how her internship at a regional inn used Carter's de-escalation scripts to transform tense guest encounters into moments of connection. Another, Jamal Robinson, described leading a respect over assumption workshop for housekeeping crews, reducing turnover by 40%. Their stories underscore a truth Diana often repeats. Systems don't change by chance. They change by design, by choosing to weave dignity into every check-in, every interaction, every policy. On campus, Aisha Khan, now a PhD candidate at Stanford, has pioneered a study on the long-term cultural shifts resulting from high-profile discrimination incidents. Her research tracks how those events, when met with strategic redress, can cascade through organizations and into societal norms. She cites the Meridian Grand example as evidence that public accountability fused with legislative teeth and executive will can reset an entire industry's default settings. But perhaps the most poignant legacy unfolds in the quiet moments. Former front desk agent Sofia Ramirez, once skeptical of the overhaul pauses as she greets a wedding party. When I first saw that live stream, she tells them, I didn't know if our policies were enough. Now I know my role matters, because every guest deserves to walk these halls unafraid. Across the lobby, a concierge checks a family of 4 into a suite, casually offering a child's coloring book depicting diverse adventures exploring the globe, an homage to the hotel's renewed commitment to inclusion. In the end, the Meridian Grand saga proves that corporate dramas need not stay behind boardroom doors. When leaders respond with measured authority, when organizations embed fairness into their frameworks, and when communities online and offline wield accountability as a force for good, bias can be dismantled piece by piece. Diana Carter's showdown in the marble lobby lives on not just as a viral spectacle, but as a living curriculum for tomorrow's leaders, a testament that calm resolve, strategic vision, and systemic overhaul can transform a moment of injustice into a movement of lasting dignity.